The His Girl Friday podcast is brought to you in part by Messenger Fellowship, living the kingdom, fulfilling the call, proclaiming the truth.
Hey guys, this is Cameron coming at you with a special life update video. And I know a lot of you have questions pertaining to the Mississippi State ID pick that was shared a few days ago. And I just wanted to offer some insights and clarification, some backstory. Before I forget, that post was meant to be a teaser from the very beginning. And I've had this particular vid in mind for the past couple months. It's just been on the back burner. As a former sports editor, I learned to appreciate the teaser, and so I will often apply it through social media. But for some of you, this is what you were waiting for, and I just wanted to honor you guys by just going back in time a little bit. Well, starting off with the present with the big news of the year so far, and then providing the necessary context, because as you'll see, a lot has come full circle in the past couple months, and I'm really excited to share it with you. I'm being a little on the quiet side. Pardon the cat enthusiasm, as I do have two little ones asleep, and that's a rarity in this house, but we will carry on. Some of you might recall back in late March, I intercepted my first tornado down in Russellville, Alabama, and that was a big deal for me. In the weeks following, I still kind of was on this emotional high from the event, and I just got curious. We all have those Curious George moments when we're wondering, well, is there something here? Is there a big picture that I'm not seeing connected to this? So I started some research online, just kind of looking at different colleges and universities. What I was looking for, I didn't expect to find, and that something was a program, an online distance learning program for those in positions like me who wanted to get certified as a meteorologist. Up until this year, kept striking out, not finding anything. But finally, after going through Florida State and Penn State, Iowa State, just a lot of different states, I found something with Mississippi in their BOMP program, which is designed for distant learners who are looking to get their bachelor's or master's in applied meteorology and operational broadcast, or a similar field. So I was stunned. This was around the first week of April. I found something that I've been looking for years and didn't exist 10, 11 years ago when I was a student at South Alabama who was working towards his bachelor's in meteorology. I talked with Lisa about it, and then also talked with the dean of the program and some advisors, and I'm in a unique situation. I'm a decade removed from my last meteorology course, actually probably 11 years now, and haven't been immersed in the calculus and the physics in a long time, since the mid-2000s. I have my undergrad in math from the university that I got in 2009, but hasn't really been applied in the financial ministerial arenas that I've been employed in. So after talking with the dean, it became clear that I didn't need to get an undergraduate degree. I needed to pursue a master's. Some of you may know that if you pause an undergrad degree, you have 5 years to return to it before the credits that you earn become void. And I don't know if that's true for every university, but I'm finding it true for several that I know. You hit the 5-year mark, and if you haven't picked back where you left off, you have to start over. So that said, it didn't make sense to go back and connect 10 years worth of time and finish the undergrad. There was really only one option for me, and that option was to, and is, to take a 404 course in the fall, and this course is called Synoptic Meteorology. If I would have stayed another year at South Alabama in 2008, I would have taken this course. It is a prerequisite to the master's program, and I am currently enrolled to take Synoptic starting in August, and then we'll go through December, like most fall semester courses. The key with the situation is that I got to make a B or above. I can't just pass the course. I got to make a specific grade or higher. And this situation is, for the most part, unprecedented. I mean, I don't know anyone who's been in my shoes who paused on their undergrad meteorology degree only to come back over 10 years later and pick up where he left off. Now, there's reasons for that, and I'm going to share that with you. This is the rewind portion of the program. So, graduated high school in the mid-2000s, started in Belmont. I actually was looking at music education, believe it or not. Then that's why I went there. I got an academic scholarship, but also would have gotten a music scholarship had I not gotten the academic scholarship first. I got into Belmont School of Music on trumpet, but got burnt out in music in high school. Just didn't have the energy for it. So I was at Belmont for 2 years, and I told my advisor in 2005, I believe, like, I want to pursue a career in meteorology. I've wanted to be a meteorologist since I was a little kid. What do I need to do? And Belmont still didn't have a meteorology program, so my advisor said, well, you're going to need to transfer, but until then, you could get your gen ed, of course, and then you could get all your math and physics done here. So I went with that, and at the time, I was still going to Belmont Church. My dad was still pastoring there, and as it turns out, my 2 years at Belmont happened to be 2 very difficult years for our family in a pastoral sense, and I don't need to get in all that, but my last semester at Belmont, this is January of '06 now, that was the time that my family stepped down from their position at Belmont Church, and it was a really difficult time for me. It was a difficult time for all of us in that season of transition. So that summer was when I was prepping to move down to Mobile and attend the University of South Alabama. I'd spent pretty much my last 6 to 9 months at Belmont preparing for this big move. Got into their meteorology program my sophomore year, and so it also just so happened that I was really church hurt and not running away from God, but just, running away from church, I felt like. In a very ironic twist, it turns out that when I got down to Mobile, I couldn't find a place to live on campus. And my dad had a friend who pastored a church, an Assemblies of God church in Mobile, and it quickly became clear what I needed to do, and I needed to accept this youth pastor intern position, and that would pay for my housing, and it would be off campus, it would be on church property, and it would allow me to tackle the responsibilities expected of me. And so that year was a very key foundational year. It was an exciting year. I was learning the science. I really enjoyed my courses, but I also was enjoying, surprisingly, being in a ministerial setting, learning what it was like to be a youth pastor, and while I was handling a lot of the social media and just the contact piece, the communications, the admin side of the role, I really got to learn through some great leaders what it was like to work with young people. And I came away from that experience really challenged and changed. I remember whenever I was home or calling home and talking to friends and family, I'd get so excited talking about what was going on in youth ministry, and it took a while, but I eventually realized, this is the first thing I'm talking about with people. It wasn't the meteorology courses, it wasn't the storm chasing, it was what was happening in ministry. So again, I don't want to get too deep in all that was going on. There was I remember meeting Dick Mills, and he had a prophetic word for me, and just being in the scriptures and just feeling this upwelling of God saying I needed to lay this down. This is between February and May 2007. May 2007 was my last semester in the University of South Alabama. After only 1 year, I just felt like I had to move on and lay it down. I didn't understand why. It was very challenging for me because I didn't have all the answers. I felt a peace about it, but at the same time, my desire was to stay with it. I've been prepping for this career for 3 years. At that point, it was I'd put all my eggs in that basket, and now God was telling me to surrender that basket, put it on the altar, and that was tough for me. So I moved back home, and at this point I had no idea what I'm supposed to do. I was very lost. I decided to transfer to Lee where my sister was because there was a discount for siblings, and the Lord was, showed favor on me. I got a gig as a sports writer and editor, ultimately, to pay my way through college, and just basically math was the focal point of my academic pursuit. Once I laid down meteorology, I had 27 hours of math and I only needed 9 more to go. So I just finished a math degree. I didn't necessarily want, I wasn't excited about it. I wasn't sure if I was going to use it or not. So I kind of was in the season where I was lost and uninspired and unmotivated. And let's just say the next 3 or 4 years were extremely difficult. I consider them my dark ages, where I was relying upon man to fill me in ways that only God could. I'll just put it as that. During those difficult years, after I graduated with my math undergrad and got a job with the state of Tennessee, the Department of Labor and Workforce Development, the Lord opened a door for me to work with the youth at our church. The Gate Community Church was only a year or 2 old at that point, and started pouring into the Youth Ministry Foundation. I actually started a little bit in the summer of 2008, believe it or not, but didn't occupy a defined role until the fall of 2009 when I was shepherding the junior high population, and at that point the junior highers of the Gate measured only 7 or 8. And over the years, this group would start to mature and bud a little bit. 2011, I met Lissa, and she felt like she needed to work with the youth. And at that point, we were just we barely knew each other. We were friends. I found out that her mom had been in the Calvary Community Church Youth Group in the late 70s and early 80s. So we found the world to be very small real quickly. Late 11, early 2012, that was the season when our relationship took off, as the youth group was taking off. Suddenly I had a helper in a female role who could identify with these preteen girls that, I couldn't identify with. And, really from late 2011 to December of last year, for over 6 years, Liz and I were entrenched and finding establishment in youth ministry, growing and maturing as leaders. For me, I was able to apply what I learned in Mobile from a ministry standpoint. And that's really been the nuts and bolts of the past 6 years. Working for the state. Now I'm at TDOT, not labor and workforce, but working in the accounting finance industry by day and wearing the ministry hat by night. Turns out that last year became a year of finishing strong, and for the first time, felt like the vein was changing directions, like that last scene of Mary Poppins, when she just sees the east wind blowing the west again. And that's exactly how it was for me. Each year when we started, there's a season of fasting and praying that Liz and I go through, and we do our inventory internally, and we go through our checklist like, okay, God, is this where you want us to be? And for 6 years, yes, stay the course. Keep going, you're doing great. The light is green. And last year was the first time that light turned yellow, and we realized we had to slow down. And even now, I would say the light is flashing yellow, but last year was all about finishing strong, going through RTF, restoring the foundations, and going through some areas of cleansing and going through the clutter and pure, cleaning up the fireplace, as I like to say. So yeah, all that said, 2017 was a year of just laying down and continuing on. So now in 2018, all of a sudden we find ourselves in a position where we're not in youth ministry anymore. For the first time in a long time, we don't have a ministry assignment, so it's opened the door for us to not only rest but inquire of the Lord. Okay, what now? We're not entitled to know all the answers, but I believe that there are some breadcrumbs, some appointed breadcrumbs that we're meant to pursue and follow. And in again, something about that day, March 19th, catching my first tornado, where I just felt the Holy Spirit riding in the car with me, even though there wasn't anyone, physically there. It felt like I was not alone, and just following that breadcrumb through some online research and discovering something really key for me. So I've applied. I got in the program end of April, and now I'm just in a season where I'm playing catch up academically and looking to see what I need to do to bridge the gap from a knowledge standpoint. Thankfully, I kept all my notes from the mid to late 2000s, so I have that, thankfully, and I always felt I needed to save those, so now I could reference that. However, this is a pretty bold move I'm taking, and that's why in my social media post from last Tuesday I mentioned, if you're not scared of your dreams, they're not big enough. So I'll be honest, I'm both super excited and I'm also terrified of what this could be. I didn't really mention this earlier, but essentially the plan is, it's a win-win type of scenario where if I don't pass, well, then I could hang my hat and say at least I tried to go to my grave knowing I did everything I could to advance the ball down the field. But if I pass and it's an open door through an open door, then I'll start the master's program next spring, and it'll be 2 years. Real quick, just wanted to share this before I forgot. So going back to 2007, one of the reasons why I thought I was permanently laying my meteorology calling down was because I thought in order to embrace my pastoral calling, I had to let go completely of my vocational calling. And I thought of the process very linearly. I thought it's either one or the other. I gotta choose one. It can't be both. Well, it turns out that while Alyssa and I were in youth ministry, we felt the Holy Spirit stirring within us to provide and write content for bivocational ministers like ourselves, those who had one foot in church and one foot out, in their respective day jobs, putting bread on the table. We've since broadened out over the years to include those who are purely in the marketplace, discovering their priesthood at work, learning what it means to mature as an effective influencer, and how we can be disciple makers and evangelists in our realm of expertise. And so that's a separate pursuit that we do on the side called His Girl Friday. But the more I started to get deeper into that pursuit, the more I realized that, hey, you know what? Maybe I can do both. Maybe I can be a pastor, which may come and go in season as far as the role is concerned and opportunity. But I could also have have this job that is rooted in passion, that is not by accident, that is Holy Spirit given. Maybe these two could coexist. It's been a game changer. I didn't have that revelation in 2007, but now I do. And so I wanted to share that with you because that's, again, something that I couldn't have possibly had a decade ago, but now it's just interesting to see how God refines and refurbishes our understanding of key spiritual concepts and principles and our philosophies of life, really. And it's turned out that I'm able to build off that specific revelation into this current season, where now it's like, okay, I may not have a specific pastoral role anymore in this season, but it's opened the door for me to finish what I started in meteorology. I'm really believing that God has intentional purpose in this pursuit, and I'm very excited to see where this road goes. And you guys are now part of it now that you're aware of it. So I just want to say thank you guys for your prayers and rooting for Alyssa and I. And as I always say when I sign off nowadays, I'll catch you on the fry. Peace.